Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Students, today's our topic is filtration, active transport, endocytosis and exocytosis. In previous lessons, we have discussed the passages of molecules into and out of cells like diffusion and osmosis. Now, these processes are also under the heading of passage of molecules into and out of cells. In previous lessons, the diffusion, osmosis and filtration are passive transports. Now the active transport requires energy, in which expenditure of energy takes place. Filtration is a process by which small molecules are forced to move across semi-permeable membrane with the aid of hydrostatic pressure or blood pressure. You know, students, that in arteries or aorta the blood pressure is high. When blood comes from the pressure in arteries, then it divides into arterioles and then capillaries. The capillary wall is so small that with this pressure the small molecules and water diffuses out from the capillary wall, and this is called filtration. For example, in animals' body, blood pressure forces water and dissolved molecules to move through the semi-permeable membrane of the capillary wall cells, and some small molecules and water diffuses out through the membrane. In filtration, the pressure cannot force large molecules like proteins to pass through the membrane pores. Large molecules and some large substances cannot cross the wall of the membrane. Only small molecules and water which diffuses out through the wall of the capillary is called filtration. Active transport. Active transport is the movement of molecules from an area of lower concentration to the area of higher concentration, means against the concentration gradient, requires energy in the form of ATP. It is possible for particles to travel in the reverse direction across the membrane and have particles travel from an area of low concentration to an area of higher concentration. But in order to counteract the force of diffusion, the cell must expend energy. This process is called active transport. Means molecules move in against the concentration gradient from lower to higher. So we can define the active transport is the movement of materials through a membrane against a concentration gradient. Active transport requires energy. Students, this is a diagram of active transport, and you can see that hydrogen ions are present inside the cell membrane are in low concentration or in less amount, and hydrogen ions in extracellular fluid is high. So the hydrogen ions are moving from lower concentration towards the higher concentration through a carrier protein with the energy of ATP. The energy for active transport comes from ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is generated inside the mitochondria, and adenosine triphosphate is the energy currency of the cell, and it provides energy to do different activities. This process requires specialized proteins, which are carrier proteins, to bind with the particle and transport it. This is another diagram. The membranes of nerve cells have carrier proteins in the form of sodium-potassium pump. In a resting, not conducting nerve cell, this pump spends energy ATP to maintain higher concentration of potassium and lower concentration of sodium inside the cell. Now you can see that sodium is present in less amount inside the cell as compared to the outside, and sodium will move from inside to the outside through a carrier protein with the help of ATP. Similarly, in second diagram, thus potassium is present in less concentration as compared to the inside, and these are entering the cell through outside to the inside with the help of ADP. When one phosphate group releases from the ATP, it becomes ADP. So the sodium potassium pump, the pump activity moves sodium to outside of the cell where they are already in higher concentration. Similarly, this pump moves potassium from outside to inside the cell where they are in high concentration. If we revise the all processes, diffusion, osmosis, facilitated diffusion and active transport, then you can see that diffusion and osmosis don't require any energy. Facilitated diffusion occurs through a carrier protein, and active transport requires energy. It's also occurs through a carrier protein, but it is against the concentration gradient from lower to higher concentration. Up till now, we have talked about the movement of small molecules across the semi-permeable membrane, but these two processes, endocytosis and exocytosis, are involved in large particles are able to cross the cell membrane by any of these four active transport processes: exocytosis, endocytosis, pinocytosis and phagocytosis. Pinocytosis and phagocytosis are the types of endocytosis. As I have told earlier, that the process of cellular ingestion of bulky materials by the enfolding of cell membranes are called endocytosis. The processes where a cell surrounds and takes in material from its environment. The particle doesn't pass through the membrane, it is simply engulfed and enclosed. The two forms of endocytosis are phagocytosis and pinocytosis. Phagocytosis means cellular eating. If a bulk material in solid form and cell engulf it, this is called phagocytosis. And pinocytosis is a cellular drinking. If fluid particles engulfed by the cell is called pinocytosis. In phagocytosis, cell takes in solid material, while in pinocytosis, cell takes in liquid in the form of droplets. Students, the reverse process where materials are expelled or secreted from a cell, this is used to rid waste and secreted substances produced by the cell. The process through which bulky materials is exported or secreted out is called exocytosis. Thank you. Now this is your homework. What is filtration, active transport, endocytosis and exocytosis? You will write it with headings from page number 72 to 74.